want to breathe life into that growing pain or that celebration or that passion that you have. And I want to ignite it through stories. In order to do that, I'm going to have some conversations, some real good conversations to connect a story to somebody else's reality to inspire them. I'm going to have an impact on so many different lives. I'm a big fan in learning by listening to others. So let's get ready for an adventure full of different emotions that's going to be expressed from me to you to my guest. Are you ready to be inspired? Because I know that I am. This is something that I'm not giving up on. I'm going to do this. God, my lips are dry. I can see people gonna say you have to have a lot of talent to be talking.
I never forget there was a time when I had went to like a gathering, and there was people were drinking. So when you drink, sometimes people tell the truth, and it was someone that was from Jamaica, and I'm American, born and raised in Brooklyn. My family's from down south, South Carolina. And she was drinking, and we were playing Taboo or something like that. And then she started to say, like, all Americans, they're lazy. They don't know how to take advantage of the opportunities that this country has for them. I was so offended by it because here I am, I got my master's degree. I've worked at major companies, and you just said something about me that's not true. But
Right.
I want to say the funny thing is, all of my friends grew up in Flatbush. All of of my family members, people used to think that we were West Indian all the time, right? Like I knew so many West Indians, right? But I will say though, when you made that statement, I've heard it multiple times from the West Indian community around, Black Americans on how, we are perceived. But I will say the outside race, they all look at us like the same, and that's that's the unfortunate part. But I want to continue on because now I really want to know that part in your life when it had to do with your children. How and when did you start to say that they're not understanding the type of values that I understood? Like what point in time did that happen?
So it wasn't as difficult with my first two kids because I did like most West Indian people do, like you send your kids back home to be raised, honestly. So
I've heard that before
my
too.
first two kids, yeah. So my daughter was 8 when she came back home, and my son was 4 when they came back home. I would go back home to see them all the time. They were in Jamaica by their paternal family, my ex-husband family. So, um, I wasn't really confronted with it much until I had my daughter, who I have now, who has a fully American family,
Yeah.
and it's a little different. So for like the first 4, for a long stretch of time, I didn't have my kids at that age. So it's kind of like,
Yeah.
And then, um, being American is only, or being American and Caribbean was only partial of my struggle. It's also the environment now. Like my friends don't punish their kids. So when they have function, everyone kid is there doing what the hell they want. And if my kids do something, I'm punishing them. I was raised that way. That's not necessarily American or West Indian thing. It really is just generational.
Mhm.
So that's a struggle that I am raising my kids. I always say I raise my kids against a whole society because a lot of things I do, a lot of people don't do anymore. I don't necessarily beat my kids. I don't necessarily feel like they don't have to report to me with their homework or, like I was raised in that type. I have 5 parents, but see, that's the thing I'm battling with. I always forgot that I had so many people to check in with that it wasn't all on my mother, and I'm still trying to fulfill those spaces that I had, and it's only me one.
Why would you allow society to try to dictate how you were going to raise your children? We got spankings, okay? It was she put us in place. I respect my mother to this day. I can't even curse around my mother, all right? That's how much respect I have for this lady. I do remember growing up and getting beatings and didn't know why. So I think that was for me the reason why I went down the route of I'm going to teach you not to do something, but I'm going to explain to you the why. That is probably a hard pill for my mother to swallow because you can never ask the why. But then the why, if I didn't get that why, then it's like you're afraid to take risk in life. You're afraid to do certain things because I recognize that my mother loved her to death, but her discipline, yes, it got me to wonderful places in life. But then there were some pieces where I was afraid to jump in. I was afraid to do certain things because it was always, you had to be living this certain type of life of making sure you stay in this position. So
So pretty much like there's a lot of consideration for like teens and their emotions. I'm scared of suicide. So like sometimes I feel that I do the explanation so they don't feel like they're always failing and always messing up because my response is harsh
yeah,
and my response is very much like, okay, like how we were raised is sit your ass down, like,
yeah,
everyone is
yeah.
chewing you. And there wasn't a space for us to really feel. But like I said,
Mhm.
we were all raised this way, so it was normal. So that's a societal part of it. So me and my friends both knew that our parents were showing us. We also had each other. We were also physical in front. All of that is gone.
Mhm, mhm.
That
Same
does
here.
not exist for these kids. So for
Yeah,
me to still have that sit your
I
ass
see
down
what you're saying.
mentality, and then I see the reaction it looks like,
Like,
and then I'm thinking like, shit, what if this sends them to kill themselves? Because that's instantly what I feel goes on here now.
wow, yeah.
So I'm constantly like, that's the battle. So, like, for instance, I'll say something like in the West Indies, we have to work hard, extra hard, because we don't have public assistance. Here, there's a space for what we're calling lazy. There is that space because the government will assist you. So that's why I don't think of it in that way, like, "Ugh, like I'm better. I just think of it like, oh, I get it. And I just kind of
You know,
like,
so and I guess because I was born and raised here, but what I used to always think, and I could be wrong, this could be a stereotype. I used to always think that West Indians, they're either rich or poor. There was no in between.
yeah. So, yeah, there's classism, 150%. There's classism there. Like what racism is here is classism there. You barely see color. People who are black tar ass skin, if
Yeah,
they have money, they're better than those who don't. So it's
yeah.
total classism there. And then if so be the case, my family was in a different class even back home because my grandfather was the captain of a ship. My
Mm,
grandmother had her own business. So even with that, like, and I understand my legacy. I understand what my family had gone through. I think my mom is the first person to have like a high school diploma because I think my grandmother may have maybe a sixth grade education, but she owns her own house. She does work on her house. She has a new deck on her backyard. She goes on vacations. She's 84 years old. She turns 85 in 2 weeks. Like, so that's, and I always contribute that to her being Guyanese because she came to this country. She worked very hard.
is it that like this country is not the ideal country in your mind?
Oh no, because like that's what I'm saying. Now I'm in a space I'm beginning so like I had gone to college and I realized so much about this country that I'm like, oh, like it really opened my eyes to a lot of things where I'm like, oh, I like I said, I began to realize how much of a struggle it is to be here and I don't want to live in a country where I feel like I'm gonna be um ostracized in that way. Like, oh, I don't want that. I don't want to go through that. Here in this country, I'm like, oh, okay, I can make it work. So my struggle is not really with being here. Like I said, being with my husband too is really showing me like a lot of the things I thought that was negative about American people is not true.
It's
And
not. It's not because I'm one of them.
yeah, I
I'm one
realize
of
it's
them.
not
I
true.
own my house. My husband and I, we're
Right.
very productive. Our children, my daughter goes to college. She's working. She has her own car. So I think definitely I'm not going to deny that I've heard of this stereotype many of times, but I will tell you that, and don't get me wrong, this country has a lot of opportunities that people don't take, they take advantage of, right? Like what you said, people get on the system and it's supposed to just meant for you to help you to get you to the next step. It's not supposed to live off of it, right? And I'm not.
But I do also understand how the system is set up.
Oh, absolutely.
So, like, and you're scared to do things that would make you wholesome, that would make you cohesive because of because of because of how the system is set up. So that's why I stopped thinking people are lazy and I really was like, yo, shit, they surviving. That ass.
Hmm.
That's all it is. They're
Hmm.
surviving.
But
There should not be any judgment behind that.
some of the things that you're saying is generational bleeding, right? So let's also point out that you do what you know with the information that's provided to you. So if you have parents that feels like I don't have to work hard in order to get what I need to get, they don't know any better, and then they pass it on to their children. But I think for me, prime example, my mother, she got only a high school diploma. She ended up going like to she was on the system, and then she ended up taking some nursing assistant classes. She ended up working for Coney Island Hospital, got off the system. She worked there for 25, 30 years. And the mentality, I'm not going to tell you a lie. I left her house, but it was me who made the decision to stop certain things as far as getting on the system. And
Right.
if in her mind, you know, I never really got conversations about going to college. The most I got,
Right.
finish your high school diploma, and I kind of
And get a job.
and get a job and get a job.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what the conversation was about. I always told myself that I think that I was a leader, because in my head, I used to always say, I'm going to do better. I can't wait to make decisions. I'm never going to be on a system. I used to tell myself, like, I was
Hmm.
always strong minded. And I think I was blessed enough to stop the generational bleeding, and my brothers as well, too, because now our children, we all are doing amazing things. So I will say currently right now, but there's certain people who don't have the ability to, or don't have the resources,
Right.
and then what they do, they keep on repeating the cycle. But
Right.
it's so funny, because I do wonder. You see how you mentioned, like, in your countries, there's in your, like, in the West Indian, environment is classism, but out here is racism. I do wonder if the opportunity sometimes wasn't always so easy. And I don't want to say easy, because some people have a circumstance and they need assistance. I totally understand that. But sometimes some people abuse it. They use it for the wrong reason, and then they just recycle it, and then and they just keep on.
Right.
So I think that there's a part where the stereotype can really play into anybody's kind of like head, because any culture that comes here, how they look at this country, like, oh my gosh, you guys are sitting out here doing nothing, and there's so much opportunities out here. I'm ready to
Yeah.
hustle and bustle. But then you got the ones who live here and you take for advantage, and then you like crying because life is not going in your direction.
Right.
I just feel that there are many people out there that you could put me in Jamaica, you could put me wherever. Survival of the fittest is for me, and I'm ready to work, and I'm ready to
Right.
grind. But I do believe generational bleeding plays a major factor into this.
Right.
It really does.
There, I think a lot of people still have like scars from slavery, and then feeling like, well, we
Absolutely.
always thought that when people come to this country from out of this country, that they're given this package, like, oh, y'all giving stuff, y'all giving a fresh start, y'all this, and I'm like, no,
No,
they're not.
it's not.
I'm like, we just have a different mentality within this. My struggle with parenting is because, like I said, I feel like a lot of what I go through is battling how I was raised. Yeah, and I feel like me inside, like I have issues with me being the person I'm supposed to be because of the images that were around me. Like,
Yeah.
trying so hard to not be this American girl. It's so stupid.
That has to be an internal struggle. That has to be an internal struggle. And
Yeah.
and your children are probably just absolutely fine. They're okay with probably the way life is, and it's more of a struggle for you than for them.
Right.
I think that I think you should still be allowed to provide them what you feel is the right structure and the right way, and then allow them to see that the American culture, give them the story that you want them to know, no matter what.
Mm.
That's how I look at it.
A lot of the impressions of what my kids do is because I have that negative look on American people. And I feel like I have American kids. I'm an American person, so I'm struggling with the
Ah,
fact that they're doing these things, and I don't know what to do to get them out of it because the only way I do know is based on how I was raised, which is not of this culture. So that's, I think, where the culture part played a role, but like I know it's beyond that because that's why I too am seeking mental health therapy because I know there's things within that I probably don't know or understand.
and looking on the outside and thinking of other cultures, because I used to think like West Indians had they were mean, right? Like you couldn't, like, yes, my mother was mean too, but this is like so silly what I'm about to say. Like sometimes their accent was so heavy that I didn't understand what they were saying, and it just came across like just outright that you are just angry, right? And
Mhm.
I wonder, and that's totally not true. Like I clearly know now, right? But I wonder, how was it with emotions and feelings? Because it's ironic how maybe the person who is in within you, like as far as that culture, the way that you were raised, is it a struggle to deal with like connecting with your children when it has to do with like opening up, maybe, or not being so focused on like the discipline, and with the connection of the loving, and how was
Right.
the relationship? Because
That's it right there. Like
yeah,
that hit it on the head
yeah,
because I feel like Americans are soft. I feel
yeah,
like American parenting is soft. I feel like
mhm,
all of that shit is like, what the fuck you considering how they let me tell you something. My grandmother told me when she was growing up, they didn't know words like bored. You weren't allowed to be bored.
mhm,
There
mhm,
was always something to do. So
mhm,
that's how my mind is set. I struggle with trying to let those things go because I feel like my family is the best and has the
mhm,
best of what they do because of all
mhm,
of these things. So like
mhm.
I don't look at these things and feel like it was harsh or it was wrong. I feel like I have to bend it because I'm here, but it's just hard for me to figure out how to do it here. And I was raised here, and I still feel like I fell into the culture, and here I am now. Like for me personally, and this sounds maybe crazy to someone else, but I just have a bachelor's degree. That doesn't mean shit to me because I know how much more I can have and how much more I should have. I just have a couple $1,000s in the bank, but I know how much more where I should be at 36 or what I feel I should be because of that like constant grind, that constant like better, better,
Yeah,
better.
you know,
And
I
that's not
I
here.
can hear it in your voice. So I
Yeah.
want I can hear it in your voice. Like I feel it when you're speaking to me. But so now
Mhm.
I definitely can see how that can impact the communication level with more Americanized children, right? Because I
Right.
wonder from them, are they looking for mommy? And don't I'm not I just want to ask you this question. I don't want you to be offended. But are they looking for mommy to be more softer and understand that I need more of that connection versus of you need to go do this. You need to make sure you do this. Like I wonder from their
Yeah, they
aspect.
do. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. I know they do.
yeah.
I know they feel like that, especially like with their dad. And it's funny because I look at him and I do think that West Indians are unreasonable. So that's where I struggle because I feel like, oh, but I feel like that unreasonable behavior makes us strong, make us tough, make us, what I feel we should be.
Where I would love to get into is more of that love and connection and emotion, because I didn't have that growing up. My mother gave me a house. She gave me clothes on my back and food in my belly. And she told me to, be respectful. I couldn't talk back to her. So she taught me the foundation, but the other part was missing. I didn't get enough
Yeah,
hugs. I'm not saying that my mother didn't love me because she loved me, in the version of her love, right? So,
right.
and I will say, if you don't mind me saying, I broke that cycle as far as I gave my daughter everything that my mother gave me as far as the discipline, but more, because I did not want to be that person who she couldn't talk to because she was afraid because of the discipline. I think that's the difference. And you know why that happened? Because I'm going to tell you, my mother did all of that stuff that she did. She disciplined me to the extent I still figured out ways to do what I needed to do, things that I shouldn't have done. So she was but you know why I did things that I shouldn't have done because I didn't have the guidance and I was too afraid to ask the questions because I thought I was going to get in trouble.
Yeah,
Even though I know I'm American and you're West Indian, but there's some similarities around the structure of, some certain black families, how we feel that, discipline is stay in your place, don't talk back, do as I say. But let me tell you what all of that got me. It got me having my daughter at a young age. I was hanging around people that I wasn't supposed to. And my mother, even I'm saying all of this to you, she still has no idea some of the things that I did around her. And then, mind you, I was the youngest with two older brothers, so I had no life. I had to go to school, come home, and get good grades, and go to school and come home and get good grades. That was my life. I mean, I would hang out a little bit, but my mother was watching me. Like it was just discipline at its finest. And you know where it allowed me to have to learn about the emotions in life in a different form. And I ended up with somebody who was a perfect person to be with at the time because he was unavailable emotionally. And that was my mother. Then I started to recognize that in order for my daughter to, and I'm not saying I'm perfect because she's going to figure out things. I'm still not doing everything in her right, what's right for her. But I recognize that I wanted to love on her, because my mother didn't love on me. She
Mm-hmm.
loved me, but she didn't love on me. And I do wonder, am I hitting home when I say that to you? Because
Mm-hmm.
how do you have the best of both worlds?
Right. So like right. So I get what you're saying is the struggle. So like with my family, so like with my husband, for instance, um I thought he was adopted when I just met him because his mother always said, "I love you" at the end of of a conversation. I was like, "What the fuck is
Wow.
that?
Wow.
Like, what is she trying
Wow.
to cover up? Why is she so?"
Wow.
And I told them that a few years ago, and they were cracking up laughing. But when they started to see how me and my family function, very automatic, but very like for me, I feel like it's love. Like everything about I feel like how I was raised just seems so right.
Like say no. When's the last time you told your daughter or your son that I love you?
Like yesterday, today, like I said, we say it all the time.
Okay. Got it.
Like I said, I realize there's things I have to do, even though it's
See, that's the thing though. So there's things you feel you have to do,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it's not you feel that it's the right thing to do or nurture or just that connection with them. You don't.
yeah. I don't deem it necessary for parenting, but here in this country it is, so I'm gonna do it because I have to. But it's not like the natural part of me is to train my kids to be the absolute best. I don't care how they. My grandmother, you see that everything bounces back to how I was raised, and this is what I'm trying to like. I don't know if to say break away from or to figure my way out through
I
because
think it's a balance.
my grandmother was raised like she's like, oh, there's no such thing as self-esteem. Either you're ugly or you're pretty. Ugly people make kids too. So what's the point of like? There's nothing to feel bad. Like them kind of things really don't exist. To my grandmother, she doesn't understand self-esteem, and so we were raised to be treated as if there was not self-esteem to consider.
But you don't
But
think that that's
raised here.
Mhm.
I'm raised here. I've gone to school here and learned that that stuff exists. So I have to like the things I would use at work, I seriously have to use here. Like I train myself to be this type of person just to get through. Not that I even necessarily feel it.
so. And again, don't get offended by this because I'm just curious to know because this sounds like a lot of heaviness as far as to try to live up to a certain standard. So
Hmm.
like, I wonder if your children here they are in this culture living the way that they live. Maybe do they have any type of feelings like mommy is putting a lot of pressure on me and she doesn't accept
So
me
yeah,
for who I am.
that's why I want to get a therapist. Talk to them about it. And because that's the only like I don't know how to even take that in. And I don't want to take that on my brain. I feel like I have so many other things going on. Like anything I don't feel like dealing with, I pay for. That's the one thing about me. So I will pay for therapy. It's
Yeah.
not even the therapy that's covered under my insurance is crazy. I'm paying my out of pocket $150 a week. Get your ass in therapy
You
because
know,
I don't want to deal with that.
so I'm gonna say that I think that I now currently believe that you can live up to these standards and have this connection with love because I broke the bleeding with my mom because if I would have raised my daughter the way my mother raised me, I think she would have been a wall. I think she wouldn't have had
Yeah, that's true.
she really would have. I don't think that she would have shared things with me. I don't think she would have um you know would have been able to have relationships in the future that's going to be productive
Hmm.
because I think I got blessed with the husband that I do have because I was a wall when
Right,
he first met me. So
right. Yeah, my husband feels the same way, felt the same way too. And then like my ex-husband didn't because
because of his
he was
culture,
used to it,
because
right?
of his
So
culture,
it
because
just
of his
seemed
culture.
normal. And with my kids, one thing I do love about them though, like they don't care if they make me uncomfortable. So they will still come and just say like um whatever the hell they want to say
I,
at that
I
moment.
love them for saying just they love and on
Yeah.
you too. Like you could be
So
who you are, mom, but we still gonna give you the love that you supposed.
yeah, I would roll my eyes or I would this. So I'd be like, come on, you know I love you. Done now. Stop. Like, you
But your
know?
love sounds calculated to me. Your love sounds calculated. It sounds you put even a lot of pressure on yourself. Like that has to
Oh
be
yeah, of
that's
course.
a lot of pressure and is not allowing you to live your best life. Let's step the kids outside of it. But the pressure that you know what is pressure is obviously coming from your parents, like the way you were raised. But you know what I learned in life that because my mother feelings, we did not talk about feelings at all. So
Right.
we have a lot of similarities on so many levels, right? But what I've learned now, that when you unfold and really get to the root of feelings and emotions, you can become more intimate with yourself and with your husband, and you can get those relationships that is supposed to be more nurturing. But because you were raised with a standard of, focusing on, like, your career, or, schooling, or, going to work, you were never able to have those intimate moments with yourself, right? You were never able, and you don't even know how to. It's
Right.
because it's just been so long. And then here's the conflict, then you got your children who probably know how to. And then you are also bringing them to, you're telling them to be at this standard, but they also know how to deal with their emotions. I can see the struggle. I can really see the struggle. But I guess my question is, do you want to change? Do you want to be at a place where it's not, I say I love you because I know it's the right thing to do, and I know you love your children. I don't want you to think I don't think that you love your children. But I'm talking about unfolding maybe the pieces of you that has given you this feeling of that I can't release the person that I want to be. Like, do you want to do those things? Do you believe that it's capable? Do you want to feel that I don't have to have this, live up to this standard, but yet still be successful? I can still be successful because my
Yeah,
daughter,
I don't know. I never thought about it because I can't even like imagine it. Like I don't know it any other way. I really can't imagine like I don't know. I
it's
don't
a
know.
good
So I'm just
feeling. Cassandra, it's a good feeling. It's an excellent feeling.
I just feel like I can get the help I need to get me to the point where I can do these things more comfortably, or be okay with being uncomfortable doing it, because I know for their sake that I need to, like, I can't really bring that here into
I
this time and space.
I think that you feel, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, because I can't tell you how you feel, but just correct me. If you let your guard down, then they may slip up and they may not be the best that they need to be in the world.
Right, them and myself too, because like um I feel like I have to be straight, I have to be tight, I have to be like on it for them to.
And the thing is, I was so tough on myself because my mother was so tough on me. And then that was that was exhausting. I think it was exhausting because I still became successful. Like, I still, thank you, mommy. I say it all the time to myself. I'm so appreciative to the foundation that she provided to me, but I had to carve my own way and I had to change the narrative, because you know why? Because on the flip side, I'm proud of all of my failures. I'm proud of the fact that I thought that love didn't exist. I didn't even know how to connect with people, but now I'm in a different place. So I don't know. I wonder if it's, you know, I know you said that you're going to therapy, but I do wonder, is it that part where if you can let go of the idealism of the relationship between you and your mom, so that way it can help you with the relationship with you and your kids. Even though I
That's
get it.
true. That's
You're
true.
not living with her, you're not with her, she done raised you. I totally get it. But let me tell you, the thoughts that goes on in our heads, it's destructive sometimes. Like,
That's
we can
true.
get in our own way. And sometimes subconsciously, our parents resurfaces over and over, and the 18 years of your life really impacts who you are. So, I wonder, when you talk to your therapist, is that, let me try to focus on that, maybe dig a little bit deeper. I'm not really getting to it, I'm not talking about love or anything, but just kind of really understanding, why do I hold her to this level and I'm not at that level, because it's stopping me now, because now I internalize it and then I struggle with my children, with the community.
Right, that's true.
I think that's
That's true.
probably something that you might want to consider, because I like having this conversation, because inspiring someone to really understand that the first 18 years of your life, if you don't unfold it and really understand it, it's hard for you to continue. I don't care what age you are, because there be some older people who still be yearning for belonging, acceptance, don't understand vulnerability. So
That's true.
that's just something that maybe that's the root of it, so that you can connect your children a little bit stronger, because
That's true.
you sound like a wonderful mom. There is no perfect mom. I don't care what anybody says. There's no book on parenting. So I can be as disciplined as can be. I can give as love as can be. And you can still be coked up somewhere. So we will never know.
That's true.
I
That's
think,
true.
I think embracing your love definition is something that you should start to do, number one.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, at first I was like, diving into the part where is it that, you don't know how to connect, but I think you're connecting. And I think that the love that you're providing to your children is a wonderful thing, but I don't know if you're owning that. Like maybe that's another thing too. Like, are you really owning the fact that I am not like my mom? Yes, I get that.
Oh, that's
I have to
true. That's
provide
true.
them the love and I have to give them, guide them in the right direction. Maybe the focus is look at me now. Look, I have changed. I have
That's
stopped that.
true.
And just because you got respect for your mother and you love her, you don't disrespect her, that don't mean you don't have to be her. You don't have to be her. You have your own
That's
path
true.
and your own way and embrace it. I mean,
That's true.
there's no straight path on this thing that we call life. There's going to be
Hmm.
some bumps and some bruises, but how much do you really acknowledge the wonderful things that you have done and the wonderful things that your children has done?
Right.
It's just something that maybe we sometimes as people start to feel because we are adults that we don't have this little inner peace, inner childhood in us that we tend to ignore. But I feel that the relationship with your mother has impacted the relationship with you and your children. How is your mother with her grandkids?
Oh, she loves them. For her birthday, her birthday was last November, and I messaged her and I was saying like, "Oh, you deserve the world," and she was like, "I have the world. I have you and my grandkids." Like she really,
Aw.
she retired in December, and before she used to say that she wants a later in life job, like as a school nurse or something, and then after a while, she was just like, "No, I just want to be a grandmother."
Aw.
So yeah, she
It
really
sounds like your
cares about
mother's a loving
her
mother.
grandkids.
I tell all my friends and I tell myself this because at first I used to have so much anger towards my mother because I didn't understand why she was just so rough on me. But I love my mother to my core because of that piece that she gave me. I'm always going to hold on to, but I'm just going to design it slightly different when it has to do with my daughter. And
Right, that's true.
I'm living her legacy through her. My mother is
That's true.
so proud of her grandbaby. She's so proud
Right,
of her, right? So and mommy, thank you for giving me what you gave me. I'm not going to be all
right.
of you, but I appreciate what you did for me.
True, true, right.
And maybe digging deep into that because I think that that's probably where it is because you're doing wonderful things. Do you feel that way?
No.
Ah, see?
And that's why it's probably was the first thing that I mentioned because I always like anytime when people talk to me, I'm always like, oh, I struggle with parenting. Like I always say that. I'm always like, a lot of people kind of feel like they're doing what's best for their kids by either not, I mean, either giving them what they never had growing up. Normally it's materialistic shit. I'm not into none of that.
I'm not into
So
that at
like
all.
that's why I don't worry about that to make me feel like I'm a good or a bad parent. Like I don't care about buying my kids Jordans
Same thing.
and thankfully I don't have kids who are necessarily into that
Same
because
here. Me too.
right, they have been kind of seasoned with that part of me where I'm like, oh, the value is really in houses, the value is really in property, the
I
value is
hear
really,
that.
so a lot of, my kids, they just speak about that, like having their own house or having big bank accounts or having this or,
I think
things
you
of
should
that
change the
nature.
narrative though. I think next
Right.
Cassandra, anytime you talk to me, it should be I'm a wonderful parent because I think you need to change the narrative. You really do. Because let me tell you something. I got people that I know that I'm like, you got kids? So I think that you need to speak a little bit more boldly about your parenting skills, number one, because you're not even acknowledging all of the wonderful things that you are currently doing. And that comes from your mother and those five people who took care of you, where you got to keep on improving, keep on excelling, so like you probably are never going to be satisfied with the way that you're parenting with your kids because you are too busy trying to move in a direction that you were
Right.
raised. And you're missing out. Not even you're missing out. You're not owning that you are a wonderful mother. Like you're not owning that right now. How tell me some wonderful things about your children. I'm quite sure they're doing wonderful things and they ain't come from nowhere. So I think I want to hear you out loud and I want to be able to this is being recorded. I want to be able to hear you say I'm a wonderful mother.
uh, I'm a wonderful mother.
I don't think the definition of a mom needs to be like what you said, materialistic things. I think the definition of a mom is being there, showing up. And you've gave me many examples that you have done that so far. So, but I do believe that you are a mom that is there and present for your children, though.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I just want you to believe it though. And I know within this, our time talking, I can't force you to believe it, but maybe when you watch, the video that I'm going to, put out there and you see that, oh, wow, I'm actually more than what I am. And I think it goes back to, that's why I asked you the question, do you think that you're enough? And enough, not only just from maybe Cassandra, but just being a mom, because I think that you are enough. And I think that you have to believe that though. Of course, it's freezing. So tell me how, how could you inspire somebody?
One or two things for
Okay.
people. I think one, definitely just trying to live in your now,
Yes.
um,
Love
and
it.
not reflect too much on what's gonna happen with what's gonna happen later or what happened in the past. Like really trying to be now with your kids. Um, so that's one thing I'm gonna work on, like being here with them now, because I think a lot of my parenting is so fixated on their future and how
Mm-hmm.
much I put into them now for their future that I need to just put into them now for now
Love
and
that.
let the future do its thing.
I love
So
that.
if I can give a parent anyway, if their parent would struggle with parenting on any degree, whether it's financial, whether it's emotional connection, whether it's on disciplining, like just try to be in the now, which is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take my own advice. Really try to be